You're listening to a Benstown and McVeigh Media Podcast Network production. Run It Again is an inside look at the players, the coaches, and the business of sports with former NFL star and broadcaster Ron Pitts.
And 2 minutes later, I was back in the same Oklahoma drill that I got the concussion from.
And the mastermind behind the greatest show on turf, Coach Mike Martz.
And we want to force him into a vanilla defense and go to work.
Run It Again is a hard-hitting, no BS podcast that connects you directly to the source. This is Run It Again.
Hey, before we get into all the NFL stuff, man, there's a lot to cover today. Let's talk about that national championship game. I know you saw that.
Yeah. I was really impressed with what Georgia did defensively. They just were relentless with their pressures.
Yeah.
And, they lost to them previously. Georgia lost to Alabama previously, mostly on conditioning. They just ran them out of the stadium. Those big guys on defense but they were in great shape. The Georgia team was in great shape. But to me, they lost that game run. I know you'll agree with me on this. The two corners from Alabama were horrible in that game.
Yeah.
Three big plays on them that cost them the game.
And remember, they've lost. Alabama's lost their starting two corners. So they were down to
two freshmen, yeah.
Yeah, they were down to two freshmen. And that game was big. It was too big for a couple freshmen. The freshman receiver had a key ball he dropped going down near the goal line. And that was huge. But I thought, hats off to Kirby Smart and his Georgia team, to fight back, come back and play well. And they beat up on Michigan's great offensive line. And I knew that front four was going to be a problem.
There we go. It was a question of time. And then that running back, Smith, number 3, he's going to play in the league, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
He's something else. Now, he hit that. When he hits a crease and he's got the jump cut, he's got it all that you look for in the league for a great back. He really does. Pass protection, they came with a safety, and he just lit him up. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah.
The thing that was amazing to me, though, is Alabama gets down inside the 10-yard line 4 times.
And they stalled out.
And they stop them all 4 times.
Yeah, they were struggling there. I thought if I had to pick one moment when the game changed completely was when their big wide receiver got hurt. And they were already coming in there. This has been the most banged up Alabama team we've seen in a long time. They came in depleted.
Depleted, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no question he would have been effective in that game. Now, whether they still win or not, I don't know.
I thought
the secondary from Georgia played extremely well.
Yeah, yeah.
They were tight everywhere. They were really good. And I think they got into their rhythm in the second half. They were kind of feeling their way along early.
Yeah.
And they were coming out on first down and drop back like the Rams, for instance. They just don't do that, right?
Yeah.
It's not what they do, and they're not a drop back team, and they struggled. Then they came out and started running the ball, and they're getting 5 yards of crack and stayed with it a little bit, threw a couple of play action passes, and they really got going.
So we'll wrap this up on this note because this is your specialty, the quarterbacks. Let's start with, it's a great story with the Stetson kid. It's an All-American story. That's the one that they put on cereal boxes, right?
Yeah.
So how good is he?
He's a good college player.
Yeah, that's what
and he made some really good plays in that game. But in terms of getting the ball out quick, he doesn't have that arm strength, which is not a big deal to me. It never has been, but he's a fairly accurate guy, but he's a really good college player. I'd have to see him. I just don't know when things are so much faster in the league. The Alabama quarterback, now that dude can get the ball out fast.
I noticed that.
I mean, they were, he avoided probably early in the game 5 sacks just because he got the ball out so quick.
Yeah.
And he's accurate. I really like him a lot. I think that even though he's a little diminutive, I think he's a little small and all that stuff, but I like him. I like his skills a lot. And I like the fact that he sees things quickly and gets rid of the ball. They were just too much for him up front, and it's not his fault.
And, Mike, it's even in the NFL, I've always been, and you tell that great story about the time you went down to New Orleans when you were with the Rams and beat them like back-to-back times and, to win the division and go to the playoffs, so-and-so. But I always thought it was a tough deal to have to play a team like Georgia again. And now the second time around is in the national championship game. That's tough. And Alabama's banged up.
Yeah, there's two ways of looking at that. I've always felt there's two ways of really looking at that, Ron. Who's it tough for? The guys that got beat or the guys that won the game?
Well, right. Yeah.
So to me, I think it's a real advantage, and that's what we've talked to our team about. I was telling Roy, our producer, earlier, we went out and played Seattle and beat them at home, and they won our division. And then we went out and played them in the playoffs and beat them. So we beat them twice at their place.
Twice, yeah.
We beat them 3 times during the year. So it's one of those things where you can kind of almost intimidate the other team too. You know,
there's that factor as well. That's right, because
that's what we try to do.
Head,
yeah, that's what we try. You can't beat us. You know, that kind of thing.
And in the back of their head, they know that they've been beaten by you guys, and it could happen again. And then,
the other thing, Ron, the other thing about that is everything that you saw us do in the other game. Yeah, well, you're not going to see any of that.
Oh, really?
So that's what we did. We didn't do anything that we did in the previous games.
So that goes away from like the theory of don't go away from what's working. You went away from what's working and still made it work.
The old coach's stuff is just, big games, keep it simple so the guys can play good. That doesn't work. That just does not work. I'm telling you, guys are too good coaches on defense now. They just are.
That's a great point. Now, see that's and I hope all our listeners are listening to that one. To win big games now, you got to have something else in your back pocket. You've always said that. You got to have an adjustment.
So Marty Schottenheimer, great seasons, always in the playoffs, but never would. Because when he got, and I talked to Marty about this, God bless him. He's a great man. Of course, just a great coach. But Marty, when he got into those positions, he says, we're just going to keep things simple. And with our players, are really good players, we're just going to let them play and not make them think too hard. Well, you're really kind of in the possibility of winning away from those guys. You got to give them, give them special stuff, that they can have an edge over that other team with. And you're on defense during the week in the walkthroughs. You walk through all the different things that they do, don't you? The gap control, the run fits, all that kind of stuff. And
all that. Right.
But all that stuff that you walk through, and then you get in the game, and then you don't see any of that. That's what we did. Yeah. So all that stuff that we did in the running game against him, we changed everything.
Yeah.
And we would change a lot of our passing game too, and then we'd just go into 2 minutes just in an odd time. So, to me, that was the way to beat them, and just protect the ball. We ended up that was our Achilles in big games is turnovers.
Well, I have to throw this in here since we're on the college platform, and I'm afraid I won't be able to tell this story until next year this time. So I might as well tell you now. So here's my Nick Saban story. So I had the fortune of being pretty highly recruited coming out of high school for whatever reason. And so that was a joke, Mike. You're supposed to laugh at that.
Of course you were highly recruited. I know you were.
So Nick Saban comes to my house with the old coach at Ohio State, Earl Bruce. Remember him?
Oh yeah.
Now they come in as a tandem, all right, and they come in and I got to tell you, Earl Bruce was a stiff guy.
Earl Bruce, and he's the only person that I know of that went through life without ever smiling.
He didn't smile in my living room that day either.
He's a miserable human being.
Oh my gosh, he was and so, but this is Ohio State now. They come in and they're red and everything, and they sit down, and it's like it's like the clergy is in my living room. There's no talking, there's no moving. They're just sitting there like side to side, this close.
Yeah.
And I'm 18 years old, 17 years old. And Dad would purposely disappear when those coaches came around. Why? Because he didn't want his influence as former world champion Green Bay Packer. He didn't want that. He wanted to
He was a bigger name than they were.
Yeah, and you know what, Mike? That really made me mad because I always thought he was going to be right there, and he's going to ask questions, and I'm just going to. He said,
he thought it was the best thing for you.
It was his. He said, "This is your show, not mine."
Right.
So we have a talk, and it's just like I said, very few words, and this is a very young Nick Saban. And boy, he had that bravado and that attitude, and he was just firing questions off at me. And when I'd answer a question, like he'd say, "So, what do you like to do besides football?" I'd say, well, I'm playing baseball. I like that. And blah, blah, blah. And I'd answer the question. He'd stare at me. Like, was that answer not the one you wanted to hear? so anyway.
He says he wants to find out what kind of competitor you are.
Oh, wait. And he does. So they leave. We shake hands, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I'm a Buckeye. I just didn't get a good feeling from the meeting. And I had a bunch of coaches come up there. Now, Terry Donahue came up there, and Barry Switzer came up there, and I went to Penn State. That was down the road on a visit. So now, fast forward, we're getting close to signing time. So I'm into bed sleep. It's probably around 11:30, 12 o'clock. My mom knocks on my door. She said, Ronnie, wake up. I said, what's going on? She said, there's a coach here. I said, a coach here? I said, who? She said, the guy from Ohio State. I go downstairs. It's Nick Saban. Nick Saban does a surprise visit back to my house at 12 midnight. Dad's sleep. Everyone's sleep. So I'm in my living room talking to Nick Saban at midnight. He said, yeah, I was, I came in town early because I got to see another kid in the area. And I just figured I would just see if you're still awake. I said, yeah, okay, I'm here. So he starts grilling me. So you like to hit? So I was watching the film, a couple tackles looked like you kind of shied away from, which was a complete lie. He's trying to get me fired up. I said, no, coach, no, I love to hit. And so he says, well, I heard you're a pretty good racquetball player. I said, yeah, I'm a real good racquetball player. He said, all right. I said, yeah. I said, where do you play? I said, I play over here at the stadium. The Bills Stadium. They got racquetball courts. He said, you want to go play? Now I'm thinking he's talking about tomorrow. I said, yeah, we can play tomorrow. No problem. I'll just tell Dad and we can go over and play. He said, no. I'm talking about right now. I said, Coach, it's 12:30. He said, so what? Your dad has the keys to the place. He can let us in, right? And I said, Coach, it's 12:30. Mike, we went over there and played racquetball at 1 a.m. at the Bill Stadium. Yeah. And I beat him, and he accused me of cheating. I mean, it's the wildest racquetball tournament game I've ever played in. I mean, every hit I made, he'd call hinders. And if you play racquetball, hinders is when get in the other guy's way and he can't swing. Yeah. Hinders, Coach, I'm over here. You were over here. How is that hinders? But man, that's my Nick Saban story. And he wanted to see, like I said, how competitive I was. And that's how competitive he is. Yeah, I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, he had a question about, my big recruiting story would be New Mexico State came in and they recruited me hard for a while. This guy was the defensive coordinator at Houston, Jim Eddy, I think was his name.
Jim Eddy. Jim Eddy, he went to be the the defensive coordinator at Houston during that big Frank Reich comeback.
And he was a Texan. Yeah. He had that accent, and he said, "Mike, tell you what, in those days they could take you to dinner in town and all that stuff. He said, why don't you all come down here to the hotel and pick in and meet? We'll sit and visit a bit, and I'll take you to dinner, and we'll see how things go. What do you say?" And I said, "Sure." And I had a real good season as a sophomore and had a lot of catches and all that stuff. So. But, as a tight end, I just was not very big, right? So,
yeah.
So I'm all fired up. I get all dressed up and I pull up to the hotel there and I go to his room and I knock on the door and he opens up the door now. And I met him right on time. He had his tighty whities on and cowboy boots.
Oh,
and a toothbrush in his mouth.
Oh, that's a bad look.
It's a bad sight. It was an ugly sight. It was an ugly sight. So, but when he opened up the door, he looked at me up and down like this. He came up and down like that, and he came, come on in and sit down. So he made the judgment right away. I just wasn't big what he was looking for. So it was a 20-minute conversation. He said, "Well, listen, thanks for stopping by. There was no nothing."
Jim Eddy, yeah. Well, from what I understand, though, from my father and a couple of, he was a good man, though.
Yeah, I'm sure he was, but my point was he just. I didn't at New Mexico State,
No. Yeah.
My senior year we went back and we beat him like 50-0 or whatever. So.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that. No, he was. I'm talking about a good coach on the field and everything.
But you cannot be not a good coach and be a defensive coordinator in the NFL.
Well, right, and it was unfortunate. And he said, everyone said the problem wasn't Eddie. And it's gonna look like he was the problem.
Oh, the big
huge comeback
we're talking about.
Yeah. The problem was the Houston Oilers at that time, and I remember Warren Moon was a quarterback, didn't have a tight end on the roster.
They couldn't run the clock out. Yeah.
They didn't have the ability to go into
slow the
a
game
4-minute run game offense. Right. And that's what everyone said.
It was almost like a run and shoot kind of a deal. In fact, it was some of it was. So they could not slow it down a little bit. And that's what happened to him. And then he caught all the credit on that. And it really kind of blew his career out of the water.
Yeah. It sure
never
did.
really recovered from that game.
All right. Well, speaking of getting blown out of the water, let's go on to the NFL here. And man, we were talking about weird games, weird situations. Briefly, for those of you who don't know, for whatever reason, the Raiders are in, Steelers are in, 49ers are in. Those are teams that were hanging on that bubble that are in the playoffs, you know, the key ones there, so to speak. And Chargers are out, Ravens out, Dolphins out, Indy's out, New Orleans is out. So let's, Mike, let's talk about this Raider game, this Raider-Charger game, and the whole, boy, if we both tie, then we both go to the playoffs. And in the end, it almost looked like it was going to happen. But the Chargers did something that I think spooked the Raiders, and they hit a big run, and they said, screw it. We're just going to go win the game and forget all this.
So they had basically sent a message to the Charger bench by letting the clock run all the way down, and they're just running dives. Yeah. And they're saying, hey, buddy, we're both in. Let's just be cool.
Right.
And he ran it down about 5 seconds, and just all of a sudden he called timeout. Well, the Raiders thinking, oh, man, he's going to try and get the ball back with whatever little time.
So they're trying to win the game. That's what they're thinking. That's what the Raiders are thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it spooked him, like you said, and then they got a nice 10-yard run, got him in field goal range, kicked the field goal to win it. It was just I don't know what went on that sideline with Brandon. I don't know, but that was just an incredibly poor decision that he made there. I thought going for it from the 20-yard line, I don't care what anybody, you just don't do that. You just don't do that. You're not giving your players the best opportunity to win that game. If they didn't do that, that's a possession. And of course they got 3 points out of that. And that's the difference in the game, right?
There's a difference in the game. I just, when it went on,
you can't do stuff like that. And he's such a good coach. He's young. He'll learn. And I know he's going on this next gen stats garbage, but the stats have nothing to do with who those people are. You go for it when you have a good play that you really like and you like the matchups. You just don't go for it because the stats say go for it.
And this game was different than the Kansas City game a few weeks prior when he had some fourth down situations that was in the middle of the field, in between the 20s, as we like to say, and he went for it. And that was different. And a couple down by the goal line, all right, he went for it. That totally different situation. But in a close game like that, points are going to be a premium. You cannot make a move like that. That was the move that the Raiders were waiting on. And like you said, it came down to those 3 points.
It was a second quarter decision back on your 20-yard line. And I couldn't believe he was doing that. I just could not believe that but he did it. And, and again, when you go for it because you really feel like you've got something you like against them.
Yeah.
You don't go for it just because you think you should go for it.
That's right.
It's all about the people, the matchups, the structures. Hey, we can take advantage of this. We'll block it this way. We'll get it in here, or we'll throw it over there. We'll show a hard fake and throw it to this guy. Whatever that is, that's what you do. But you don't go for it just because when he's gone for it, a lot of the stuff is just blah. There's nothing really special. Like if we went for it on 4th and 1, we put nickel and get into unbalanced versus man. There's no force and just run away from force. There's no force. Yeah. Stuff like that where you try to manipulate the defense, it gets just exactly what you want with an advantage. He didn't do any of that.
Yeah, I think these guys have to be careful. I'm all for the young coach thing, and some of these guys are really good, and we've seen some great things, but
all this next gen stats thing, Ronnie, that you're talking about, that they were talking about on TV.
Yeah.
The stats are fine, but what they don't do, the reality of it is matchups and people and structures, and you've got to take all that into consideration before you even think about going for it, you know?
Yeah. No, that he's got to rethink that. It's going to be a long off season for him to rethink that. And he can say whatever he wants to the media. He can pound his chest on that. But, late at night, he's going to think about, damn.
I think he'll take a hit on that one, and I think he'll change that. I don't think he's going to be defensive about that. I mean, I haven't heard, but I don't think that's his character. I think if he's made it, he'll own up to it, and he'll be reflective on it.
Boy, how about the drives though? With Herbert,
that's the most courageous. That's the best performance in a quarterback in a quarter I've ever seen in my life.
Right, he's got nothing. He's got no timeouts coming down the field.
Nothing.
I mean, he's just nothing. It's
just
amazing.
4 downs. 4th and 20, Ron. 4th and 20.
Oh,
got no chance to win the game. 4th and 20, and he throws a touchdown. He throws a rocket. And then he gets flushed on the other 4th down, 4th and 15 or whatever it was, and puts the ball over in the corner where nobody can get it but the back, and just right around his knees. And it was the most incredible performance by a quarterback I think I've ever seen. Yep. And then to lose the game, that really, that really sucked. So my thing about Brandon is, you can do that, and the players will, okay. But you do that too much now, you'll lose they lose faith in your ability to have good judgment and give them an opportunity to win. And that will erode some of that on him.
Yeah. Mike, what would you have done if you were either team, the Raiders or the Chargers, with this tie thing? Would you have played it kind of like it looked like the Raiders were playing
no question. Yeah, no question it would. Because the whole idea is just getting in.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean you win the game and you're in, but either way you're in. So what difference does it make? So here's John Cooper used to say this. I was thinking about this morning when I got up, believe it or not. He said, Mike, you got to win the surest way. Win the surest way. And a tie there is a win because it puts you into the playoffs. And it was a perfect opportunity for him. I don't know why he did that. I just don't get it.
Gosh, that's weird.
The head shaker. And I didn't look at any of the the interviews or anything from to see what was said or what he said. But you can't defend that. I don't even try to defend that.
Especially when you go in overtime. My thinking is, listen, we took each other to overtime. And now we're getting ready to wind down this overtime. I'm not going to do anything stupid. It's almost like a standoff with two soldiers that have rifles pointed at each other, but the war is over.
Yeah. So
they can turn around and walk away and both save their lives.
So yeah, you can both meet out in the middle and sing "Oh Holy Night at Christmas." Yes, So the Raiders were sending a message just on how they played that over. They went down very conservatively, kicked the field goal.
You could see it happening.
And they said,
like, oh my gosh.
Okay, get the ball, and if you kick a field goal, great. And they went down, kicked the field goal, tied it up miraculously, and. Yeah. So I don't know. One of the bigger issues for me in that game was the right tackle against that defense. Was it Crosby? That defensive end from Oakland. That defensive end just took that offensive line, but they didn't help him. No, they put a tight end over there, but he never hit him. He just kind of flinched at him. The back flinched at him, but nobody actually chipped him, and they just left that poor tackle out there to die.
Yeah, it was rough on both tackles. Yeah.
And what did you get? 4 sacks on him or some dumb thing? It just that's a coaching issue that should have been addressed during the game. And I've had that happen before. You got to scramble and adjust to that.
So end of the day, Chargers are out. So let's talk about this 49er Ram game, and then we'll go to the upcoming games. I'm trying to think, Mike, have you ever lost 6 of anything straight to someone, like ping pong, golf, bowling, anything? 6 straight. I was thinking about that, and I want our listeners to think about anything. It could be anything, cards, whatever.
Well, let me take it back. I was with an organization that had lost, I think, 22 straight to San Francisco. 22 straight. And I was part of that when I was in LA for 3 years. And then we moved the club back to St. Louis. So I was part of 10 of them.
Mike, you're telling me that the old Rams in LA that were down in Orange County there, you're telling me that group lost 22 straight to the 49ers?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, it was like 21 or 22 straight. They hadn't beaten them since the 80s. And I think since like 88 or some dumb thing like that. So
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So in my first 3 years with them in LA, we lost every one of them. And should have had them beat. And one of them, Steve Young, had a 50-yard run with no time on the clock to beat us. But then we moved the team to St. Louis, and we lose 4 there.
Yeah.
We lost 2 of them at the clock there. And then I left for 2 years, and then I came back. So, and that was when we changed everything. Then we never lost to them. Then we went 10-2 against them. Then because I understood the importance of, because they were the team. And when he got up there, the linebacker, what's his name, and started hitting the bag.
Oh, Norton. That was Norton. In St. Louis. Yeah.
Yeah. So I took a picture of that, and then I took some quotes out of that. So all week long, I'd show that thing with him hitting the bag and the quotes, same old Rams, all
same
that
old
kind of
Rams
stuff.
quote. Yeah.
And it didn't mean anything to a lot of those guys because they weren't around with all that.
Yeah.
But they understood after a while that it was a thing for this organization had to get over. And then we took it over real big.
Oh boy, yeah, I remember you did. And that next game, I actually did that game. I called that game.
You did, yes,
yeah.
You did. Yeah.
And that was a game that Isaac Bruce went insane. He had
4 TDs, yeah, he had 3 TDs in the first quarter, and then we threw a bomb in the third quarter, I think. And
yeah, you guys blew him out of the water, and it was it was such a big moment for Isaac. He became emotional on the sideline after I think his 3rd touchdown.
So what you don't understand about Isaac is people don't get is he hated the 49ers because it's what he wanted. He wanted the greatness that they'd attained, and he was such a competitor. He never felt like the guys on the team competed at the highest level like he was trying to attain, and it bothered him. So we were finally there, and he never thought he'd see it. And we were finally there, and it just was an emotional moment for him.
Yeah. Jackie Slater's like that. He gets very emotional, and it's real.
It is
for
real.
The camera. It's real. That hate for that organization. But remember, folks, everything is cyclical, because back in the 70s, I remember the Rams used to beat up on the 49ers time after time after time.
So
after time,
how about this irony? So then I end up at San Francisco.
Yeah.
They cut Isaac. He comes out and plays a year for me at San Francisco. The very last game of his career, the very last play of his career is a game-winning touchdown with no time on the clock.
Oh my God!
To beat the Rams at San Francisco.
The Rams
from San Francisco. Yeah.
My gosh.
How about the irony of that?
That irony.
But you know what happens with what's happening with the Rams I think with the quarterback is they're a little bit of a fragile team. They don't have the running game they just need to have. They just don't have it. The offensive line is horrendous in protection. Horrendous. It's the worst. Technically, they're the worst pass blocking team I've seen in the league, just from the technical aspect, not physical.
Why is that, Mike?
All right. So when you're in protection, and I'm talking primarily the inside 3 guys, but the tackles too, but the inside 3 guys, when I watch them,
inside 3, yeah.
You don't want past 2.5 yards. So when you step to a 3 technique, you got to step up on your side and drag your other foot and keep your weight on that inside foot and punch. And you can't get turned. The guards and centers, when they're picking up games, they get the shoulder turn. Well, you get your shoulder turn, and the lineman gets on that shoulder. It's what we call soft shoulder. It's all over. And when you watch him on film, on the drop back stuff, that's why they throw so much play action stuff. Where they're sliding over here and doing that kind of thing. But in drop back, they just not very technically sound. And Jackie, I'm sure sees that. Probably driving him crazy. That's why there's so much pressure on them. Because one-on-one, they just don't hold up inside.
No, that's right. And that's why they try to run so much boot, because that disguises that.
In other play actions and do that kind of stuff. And the left tackle is, he's on his last leg. He's been a great player all these years, but he's going to struggle against anybody that's decent, So their offensive line, they cannot, and I said this last week, they cannot play a 2-minute offense. They just can't do it. So if they're down to go into a full, I don't even know if they have that deal where like 4 receivers, they just can't go to a 2-minute deal where it's just all drop back in the gun. They're just not going to hold up. They're just not. They can't block a really great down 4, and I think that's number 1. Number 2, the quarterback, he's just got to play excellent football for them to have a chance. He can't have a blow up of one or two plays like he's had. He just can't. And of course, he did in that game too.
He did it too, yeah. And they were trying to get the ball to Cup there in the last series, and that was weird because Odell must have been in the wrong place. He jumped over and deflected a ball that was clearly going to Cup, and then it looked like the quarterback underthrew Odell. I thought it had a chance on that deep ball in the last play.
Oh, he did. Oh, yeah. He underthrew him by 4 or 5 yards. Yeah, he did. He couldn't get enough on. He just threw it late. Those deep balls, if you don't get it up on time, then you can't throw it. He just didn't get up on time. So, but the other thing about the Rams, not trying to beat up on them, but the thing I look at them technically is they've got those two great pass rushers outside now, but they're light in the ass guys.
Yeah.
And their inside guys are, other than what's the big tackle?
Floyd. Well, you got Ashawn Robinson. He's
the other big kid.
And then Gaines.
Gaines, yes.
Gaines, yeah. Next
so Gaines is probably the most stout guy in there, but they're all small.
They're small guys. Yeah.
Aaron's small. You get a guard on Aaron and you double team, you just roll them out. And that's what guys do.
That's what they're.
If I was going to play them, I would run left at number 40, single block him with the tight end, and double him back into that linebacker. Reader, you never see him because everybody gets up and blocks him. They can't keep a defensive lineman off the linebacker. He can't make a play at linebacker.
No, they just next level him, and that shows over.
Yeah, I'd love to see them snug up in some real tight man. Play some real tight man, just blitz the hell out of people, with their speed. I really would.
They've got a corner to do that, and I think they can hold up on the other side. They've had issues on the other side though, but you know what? That's part of it, and you've got to be able to defend.
Ron. I mean, everybody in the league does, but if you depending on the quarterback, you just go after him, and
I think you should.
I just would like to see them do more with their front because they're so light, to stop the run. Stop the run. They get down. They just play their regular front. They don't do anything to really create havoc in the schemes or anything,
Garoppolo,
but that's always been my problem with them. I just don't like them defensively. They're just so vanilla,
Yeah. Garoppolo continues to surprise me every time he plays the Rams. I think this is the time he's going to not do it. I thought for sure the Rams were going to fix it. I said, okay, there's no way they're going to take an L here, because if they win this thing, even though they still got into the playoffs, they backed in with the Arizona loss. But even still, I thought, they're tired of it. 5 in a row is too much. They're going to fix this, and they're going to go out of the season on a good note.
Well, when people say that though, Ron, you say that with the thought of they just weren't playing good in all the other games. What I mean? Okay, we didn't play up to snuff, so we'll really do it this time.
No, they can't say that anymore.
They can't say that because that other team has hit him in the mouth all the time.
Mike, that's all I'm saying. So what's your thoughts on Garoppolo now?
I think really they have to, and he's changed a lot with Cooper Kupp. He's really done some really nice stuff with those guys. But the back in their passing game and in the running game is almost non-existent, and that's very, very hard on an offense. So, and it kind of goes on. It's not really exposed. It's just not talked about. And Michelle, he's really a good back. They just don't do much out of the running back, the running game or power running. They just kind of they hand it a little bit, then they're not patient, then they get off it.
No, it's almost like they want it to get slammed so they can start throwing the ball.
Well, and then they're doing all the reverses, of course, and all that stuff, all the trick stuff that they've done so good over the years, and it's good. But here's what I will say to you, and people used to criticize me but we always ran the ball well. I would tell you, we always rushed. We're always in the top 5 rushing. Yeah. But the one thing that we did in camp is everything at camp to begin with was physical. We just pounded. 9-on-7 full pads, buddy, and we had to establish a physical aspect of the game that's inherent to who you are. That's who the 49ers are. Yeah. And that's why I think they'll go ways in the playoffs. I really do.
No, they're a physical team, and they know what the Rams don't like, and they make sure they give it to them. That was as dirty in there between the tackles with the Owen defensive lines as you will see in any NFL game in history. And that was intentional.
Definitely. Yeah, like I said, though, they just physically don't have the stature to hand up to hold up against the
Rams
offensive line. Yeah. Rams, that's why they just don't have the size. They just don't. So you get into two tight ends against those guys, and you run at the edges, and that's what they did. They just kept running left,
Yep.
and rolling him out of there, and they did a good job. They know what they do, they know what they want to do, and they just do it, and it worked. But they were down 17-0 there. I thought, oh man, the whole thing's going to change, and there they come back.
Isn't that something? Yeah. Just when I think I got Garoppolo figured out, and boy, he had the bad thumb and wasn't supposed to play, and then the great interception by Jalen Ramsey there, I thought saved the Rams. But
yeah, he did.
In the end, they came back down the field. In a couple performances, and we'll get off this. Deebo Samuel still continues to be a man every time he plays.
Amazing athlete.
Yeah,
amazing.
And this Juwan Jennings, this number 15, he came out of nowhere, so to speak. 6 catches, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns from him.
Yeah, he did. And I'd never heard of this kid before. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, no, and he just showed up and just. So this is a team, and this is going to be an interesting game here. Let's just go to this right now. We're going to go to the games coming up this week. So let's start with San Francisco. Let's start in the NFC side. You got San Francisco at Dallas. Now these are the wild card games, folks. The number 1 seeds will sit it out. Green Bay will sit it out. They got a bye week. They're the number 1 seed throughout, and the Tennessee Titans somehow came back and surprised everybody and snuck in there and got the number 1 seed. So they will sit out the first week. But San Francisco at Dallas, Mike, what are you thinking here?
I think this is going to be a very, very hard game for Dallas because it's a team that they've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of football that they've not played this year at all. Real physical smash mouth on both sides of the ball. I think what they'll do is they'll go in there and gobble up the clock and get first downs and keep Dallas, off the field offensively as much as they can. And I think that it'll be a field position deal where get as many first downs as you can. Hopefully you can get points. If not, you can put them at the other end of the field, And I think that's the key against a great offense like this. And I do think that they'll have a hard time. I'm talking about the Cowboys against that defense. I really do.
Yeah, and the Cowboys they've gone up and down that mountain. Now, sometimes they look really good, and then there's situations like the Denver Bronco game where they just look.
That's what the Broncos did to them, Ron. That's what the Broncos did to them. They gobbled up the clock. They got first downs. They scored when they had the opportunity. And what happens is, and you'll see this with the Cowboys, you get real panicky as play callers.
Mm-hmm.
So now you get, you've had an eight play drive that's taking all this time off the clock. You feel like you got to make something happen. Yeah. So they'll go in there and they will stuff the running game of Dallas. They'll stuff them. I'm talking about the 49ers will stuff
They
it.
will stuff them. Yeah.
And then what will happen is the 49ers or the Cowboys will just start winging it. And when they do that, when he's on, man, you can't stop him. So if he's on, that's great. But if he plays like he's been playing with the misses, it'll be a hard day for him. Yep. It'll be a hard game for the Cowboys. I think they win. I do think they'll win this game, but it'll be really hard for them. It'll be a hard game to play.
I agree. Philadelphia, Tampa Bay.
Oh, Tampa Bay will kill them. They got no chance.
Yeah.
They got no chance. Philadelphia, I know they're playing really well coming down the stretch, but
I don't believe it. I don't
Tampa Bay, the first round of the playoffs, just like last year, they'd lost to, New Orleans, and they come back and play New Orleans in that's in the playoffs now. The first round of the playoffs, buckle up, they're ready to go. It's a team that's been there. They're really a good football team. They're healthy. They're on a mission. I don't think they can beat them.
Well, they've got Fournette out. They've lost Godwin for the year. AB Antonio Brown went AWOL. We know that one. And Mike Evans is on and off. He's been battling an injury. So Ronald Jones may come back for this. So they've got their share of injuries.
Yeah.
And Levante David will come back. He's been in and out of the mix a little bit. So, and Pierre-Paul, so they got to get healthy here.
So they had 2 receivers I never heard of have 150-yard games. So you could put Herbie Moskowitz up there at wide receiver right now with them, and it doesn't matter. They're just going to beat them, Ron. I'm just telling you, Tampa Bay, it doesn't make any difference what Philadelphia, they're going to beat them. And defensively, they'll shut them down.
And it starts and ends with Tom Brady. We know that. Arizona will take on the Rams. Now this is interesting because Arizona to me now has clocked out. They look like they've already made plans for Cancun.
I tell you what's happened with them, Ron, is that coaching staff does not know what to do.
That's obvious. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, we talked about the plan of how you beat them and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They don't change much on offense of what they do. They start to run the ball, but if they get behind, they abandon the running game completely.
Yeah.
And then that quarterback, everybody has just contained him. Last week was a perfect picture. The ends came up and stopped and waited and see which way he was going to try to bail. And they pushed up the front and he can't see. So he goes to bail and he can't. That's what the Rams inside now. And Arnold, they'll kill him inside with those two guys. And those rushers outside, they can't block them.
Yeah.
And then we'll try to run the ball against them. So,
And that's Kingsbury's MO on the negative side. That's what happened to him in college. Great starts, poor finishes. And it's like you say, I think they don't know what to do right now. So the Rams should handle this one.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they will.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the AFC side. So Pittsburgh with the whole Ben Roethlisberger story, it's a great story. I'm sure he thought for a second there that the Raiders and the Chargers were going to ruin his party, but they didn't. So they're going to go to Kansas City, and Pittsburgh's going to have to play hard, play well.
I think Big Ben will have wished that they didn't make it into the playoffs. This is going to get ugly. This one will be an ugly game. I think Kansas City will just light them up. They're just not very good.
And Mike, I don't like Kansas City's defense. I know they're better than they were, but they're just not consistent. There's something when I watch them. I watched them real close in that Denver game, and I know they had something to play for, but not as much, obviously as some other teams. But something didn't look right. That game was way too hard for them against Drew Lock. So and not a lot of weapons.
Yeah, Spags is doing it with mirrors and tape and magic right now. They're just not very good on defense, and he's done some things to protect some guys. They're just not very good.
Yeah, you remember the narrative a couple of weeks ago, midseason was, well, that they changed it. The Chiefs are better on defense, folks. They got it together now.
Well, I think they are better because he's moved guys around so much to try to, and he's done a great job of. Because if he just sat in a defense with that group, he's real creative on defense, which creates problems for you. Yeah. And he does a great job. But ultimately, those kinds of things give up real big plays.
Hey, what the heck was this with Tyreek Hill injuring his heel and
then he came back in? Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, they I don't know if he did it. They showed the guys doing all these alley-oop jumps. Guys like to warm up, and they got to warm up the way they warm up. But that was, man, you might want to tell him, dude, just tone it down a little bit for pregame. You're not getting paid for pregame.
No. I had that happen with Adam Marshalletta, yeah.
Oh, you did that with
Yeah. So I think that I really think that Kansas City is going to really have just a phenomenal outing against this group. I really do. I just don't think Pittsburgh's any good. I think they've done a great job of coaching there. They've gotten everything out of that team that they can. It's just they're not very good on defense.
Okay, so before we go on to New England, Buffalo, and the Raiders, Cincinnati, there's a story that came out this past week about some big time coaching move that's about to happen with the Raiders. So now what is that? To me, that can only be one thing, and that's that they're going to give Bisaccia the job. And should they give Bisaccia the job? Has he earned it? I think they should. I think he's got the locker room. He's got the locker room. That's number one. That's key. Yeah. He's steadied the ship, no pun intended, because they were in rough waters for a second. And now they're in the playoffs. There's just those three things alone.
And no question.
Tell me, you got to strongly consider this man.
There's no question. On the job proof right there. Here's the guy's taking a team through all kinds of weird stuff and put him in the playoffs. I mean, how does he not get the job?
How does he not get the job? And it's a huge mistake. Oh man. Oh, okay. So let me go on to New England, Buffalo. So Mac Jones isn't the same Mac Jones as he was the first 10 games. The last time New England went in there, they pulled that run the ball trick, and Jones only threw for I think 5 attempts, something like that. I think it was 3 attempts, 2 or 3. Yeah. So now they're going back in the good old Buff playoff time. What are you thinking on this one?
Let me ask you a question. Who are the 2 wide receivers at New England? Right.
Yeah, I know the one guy, but
Yeah, they're just they just don't have any firepower on the outside, Ron. They're a good team. They're getting everything out of that team. They're really good on defense, but they don't have anybody outside. They don't have anybody out there that's gonna make big plays for them because they haven't all year. They haven't made big plays all year. They just have sustained drives and play great defense and don't beat themselves.
Yeah,
but ultimately in the playoffs, you get up against good teams that have big firepower. They just can't hold up. They just, that's why. Who are the receivers? I don't know. I don't know either.
Mike, the only reason I could remember them now is because they're tied into a movie, because they always make the joke, the Bourne ultimatum. Kendrick Bourne, he's one guy. Aguilar is another guy, and Jacoby Myers, because it sounds like a law firm here in Los Angeles. But
yeah, they're just it's a really a below average group at best.
Yeah. That's man. Okay, so you're thinking Buffalo all the way.
Buffalo kills them. I think Buffalo will get all off. I really do.
It feels like Buffalo on this one. So we'll see. So now the Raiders going back to Cincinnati, and a red hot Cincinnati team. Maybe one of the places you don't want to play right now is Cincinnati, just for the crowd energy and noise. This is going back to the 80s when they had the whole jungle thing going, 90s rather, the whole jungle.
So they lose the last game. Cincinnati gets beat, right? In this last game. That kind of bursts their bubble a little bit. But what they've not seen, Ron, in this Raider team is they've not seen defensive front like this. They have not seen a front like this. That defensive front is exceptional.
They're pretty good. And they got the one guy hurt. 94.
Yes.
They got
him
the
big
Raiders
old nose guard. Yeah. They
93
did.
and 94. Yeah, and
I don't know if he's coming back or not.
Impressive, right? He was impressive.
But they'll have to block Crosby on the outside. They'll have to double him somehow. Right now, he's such a violent player. They're playing with house money. Nobody expect him to do anything. Just the psyche of the whole thing emotionally for the Raiders. They got nothing to lose. They'll go back there and like the old Raiders did. They'll just raid and pillage,
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Mike. They got nothing to lose.
No, nobody expecting to do this. All the pressure is on Cincinnati. They're great now. They've got the great quarterback, Mixon, and they do that. The receiver Chase are great. The defense is playing good. They got it all going on. Well, the Raiders don't care about any of that stuff. They'll just go in there. This is really going to be a hard game for Cincinnati to win. It's going to be hard. It's going to really be hard. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Raiders go in there and put a thumping on them.
Yeah. No, they're good up front. They're a lot better up front, Mike, than people want to give them credit for. I think Max Crosby, he makes himself known when it's time to. Ngakoue is there.
Those two guys on the outside now, Ron. Those guys. That's a great tandem in the league. And he never comes out of the game. He never gets tired.
Yeah. No, I know.
You ever seen that? I've never seen it like that. He never gets tired.
I need some of what kind of vitamins he's taking, man. And whatever that is, boy. Well, and it's well chronicled his fight over alcohol and all that. So, he's living another life also. So Mike, a relatively young team now offensively for Cincinnati. Jamar Chase had a great year and the quarterback as well, but this is the type of games that veteran teams go into, and the Raiders.
But Mixon's had a hell of a year.
Mixon, I didn't want to leave that out. Yeah.
And the line is much better. It's the best line they've had for a long time. Defensively, they're solid. I think just the emotion of it, being in a playoff game at home. When's the last time that's happened at Cincinnati, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That takes me back to the 90s, when the whole jungle vibe was going, and they. Yeah, Sam Weish was up there, and they were running the up-tempo offense that other people later on copied and so on. So this is.
Well, I think they win. I do. I think Cincinnati will win this thing. I think it'll be hard to slow them down defensively, but I do think, what they'll do with Crosby is they won't just leave him out there. They'll have a plan for him.
No, they will. They'll play
They
smarter.
won't do the Charger routine where they just let him go.
Yeah, and another Charger routine they're not going to get is going for it on 4th and 1 on your own 20.
Right.
That ain't going to happen. Zach
So
Taylor's
they'll be smart,
closer.
and they're really good. They've got that combination with the wide receiver is pretty substantial. They'll make his plays.
Yeah,
but they're still going to stick with their plan. They'll grind it out and then throw the ball for some big plays, and I think they win. But I do think this Raider group is going to come in there and be destructive. But I think Cincinnati does win it.
I think Waller's out there, but he's not 100%.
He hasn't shown up at all, and he's missed him. He's just not running very well.
I don't think he's 100%, but I get the kid. I mean, he's gone this far and done all this.
He's staying there
out there.
Yeah.
So, Mike, let's close out talking about the coaching changes. They called Monday Black Monday in NFL, and so Matt Nagy gone at Chicago, along with the GM Ryan Pace. The rumor
that doesn't
Leslie.
mean anything.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean anything. Ron, the thing they just keep getting wrong. You got to go deeper than that. They keep changing head coaches and GMs, and nothing changes. Nothing changes. Nothing changes.
How deep you got to go?
You got to get the president. You got to go back into that deep. You've got to change the psyche of that organization.
Wow. You got, so in other words, you got to go one step below the McCaskey family, the ownership.
You got to get them out there. You got to change that whole culture and get somebody who knows football in there.
And how many teams have done that?
I don't know. I really don't know.
And I think a lot of teams are afraid to do that and don't know how to do that.
Well, they did the Rams.
Yeah.
When they moved them out here, they did it the Rams. They got rid of everybody.
They did it with the Rams. Did they didn't do it with Detroit, or would you call this?
Yeah, they really did because
move?
I guess the owner, she's really more involved with it. They just got too many inexperienced people at the top there. Their GM was a scout, and he's never been in the office. So, I mean, that's a bit of a struggle. They are going to bring in. I think they're going to bring somebody in that does as a consultant that is a football guy. But I just saw that they did re-up the president. So
yeah,
and I'm not blaming him for everything, but he just, he's a business guy. You need somebody making these decisions that's got experience, that's done it, and
it's like these colleges, Mike. They cracks me up when they use a search firm to find their next coach. Well, those people in that search firm better have some serious football knowledge and be able to go up on the grease board and draw things up and know when something isn't working and why it's not working.
Well, first, it's ridiculous to get a search firm to hire a football coach. See, that's the problem. And see, the Bears are doing that too. They've got a committee together of people that are going to hire the coach. It just doesn't make sense to me. But
I see that.
It'll continue to be the Bears.
Yeah.
I'm sure Green Bay and the Vikings are happy about it.
Oh no, they send out all of that propaganda. Oh man, boy, they're going to be stronger next year. Boy, they're going to be tough. And they laugh behind their back. And anyway, the Vikings, Mike Zimmer parted with him, along with general manager Rick Spielman.
Yeah, longtime
GM in the league. So
I think that's a great job. I really think that quarterback's pretty damn good. I really do. I think that's a really good job. That's a solid. Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen up there, but I think of all the jobs that are available, I would think that that's the best one.
Well, it's funny. They've been talking about Cousins leaving. Like, this is his swan song. So,
why would he leave? Hopefully whoever gets in there, he's too good a player to get out of there.
Right now, yeah. And you've got a young player there, again, very much like Cincinnati.
Anytime
you got Justin Jefferson there.
He used to talk to us about our personnel guys. They didn't like somebody on the team. They said, we need to move this guy. Okay. Well, who are you going to replace him with?
Right.
Well, we can draft. Okay. Who are you going to draft?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to find. Yeah. You're not going to replace this guy. You can't do that to us.
They don't have an answer.
Yeah.
They don't have an answer. And now this is the surprise one for me. Brian Flores. What happened down there?
I don't think that there's a connection there between the quarterback. I think they're married to that quarterback. And for some reason, I think that he and that head coach just don't hit it off very well. Because remember, he benched him, then he had to play him, and that's when he took off and got hot. Remember, they were 0-5, and they changed quarterbacks, and then whoever it was got injured, and he had to play him, and then he just took off and got hot and won like 6 or 7 in a row. And
Right.
I think ownership there wants, obviously they're invested in the quarterback, and I think Flores and the quarterback too. I think there's a disconnect there, and I think that's why.
But Mike, with that kind of record, you finished 9-8. Now I know they finished out of the playoff mix by one game probably.
Yeah.
But that's not a. They didn't have a bad season, and they started off rough, and then they fixed it and picked it up and went on a nice run. I'm just trying to figure out what were there words in a staff room. You know, sometimes you can catch a guy on a bad day and a coach, you know,
No, I just think
out a GM or owner, and all of a sudden it's okay. Well, then get out. Okay, I'll leave. One of those.
I don't know. I'm not aware of any of that, but I am aware that the quarterback and the head coach down there, they're just not. You know, it's just not working.
I wonder who's wrong.
Well, the guy they pay the most is the guy they're going to go with. You know, so they're paying two all that money. You think the coaches go in those situations? I'm just telling
you're gonna go with the 23-year-old kid, right? That
you've paid all that money.
$100 million too. Right?
Yeah, 100. Yeah, instead of the coach over there, Joe Schmutz. You know, Joe Schmutz can go. You can get another one. You know.
The coach has got 5 rings from New England, right?
Right.
You say.
Well, you know, it's just like Al Davis used to say, I can find anybody come here and coach this team.
Woo. You know what?
He said he used to say, hey, Coach Martz, I don't pay these head coaches because, hell, there's a line of about 50 out there that come and take it for nothing. They don't mean nothing.
Oh, my gosh. That's great. That's great, Mike. Woo, man.
I spent a lot of time with Al in those owners meetings. I used to search him out because I really enjoyed talking to him.
Well, I got a good Al story, but we don't have any more time today, so I'll tell that one later on at your request. You have to request it, man. And now these coaches are safe as of now, unless the wires are changing every minute, folks. So things may be popping as I'm talking. But David Culley. At Houston, Matt Rule, he unloaded most of his staff, but he's safe. And,
Matt's that's he's got to get done obviously this year. Then I just don't understand how New York can
Joe Judge. They haven't made a move
Joe
yet.
Judge.
Yeah,
it's all about money. You know, they paid him so much money. It was so dumb to give him all that money without ever coaching in the league, really. You know.
Yeah. Well, wow. All right, Mike, that's it, man. I know you've got a lot of things to do. And
I have one question for you. Yeah. How many in the last 5 years? Say in the last 10 years, college coaches with no NFL experience have come in and done a great job in the NFL and won?
None. I can't remember any.
But owners are still enamored with that. You know, they're still enamored.
Yeah, that's right. No. And McVay's a young guy, but he had a lot of experience. He's bounced around the league, in different places. And he comes from NFL lineage, so that's
But I mean, all these. If you're an assistant in the league, you got it. You were in it, and then you go.
You're in,
head,
right?
That's different. But
that's different. Yeah, that's totally different. But no, I can't think of.
Yeah.
I'm not. And see, so that's Matt Rule. That's who you're talking about. He's one of those guys,
And then where was Joe Judge?
Joe Judge was right in New England. Yeah.
So he's just. They threw him all that money for the lineage out of, New England. Of course, Bill is all of his assistants that he wants to get a job. They're going to get hired or interviewed. None of them worked out.
So, what's the number one thing you're looking for from a coach if you're an owner? What should it be? What should it be? That's the better question.
I think judgment and having a plan. And staying to that plan. For me, if I was an owner, I'd want somebody that I was convinced that I understood that he knew how to develop a culture there that was going to be good every year, with getting the right people in place. And that's what it's all about. It's about people and having the right people, obviously. And to me, it was always about hiring somebody with a competitive personality, that everything they did, they had that competitive edge, whether it's coaches or players. You just didn't care how talented you were unless you were going to compete at a high level and how important it was to you. And you know, you got to have those kinds of people. And so when you interview people, I had 3 things that I liked about people, and you hold that to them. And then that's good. If they are light in one area, you don't hire them. You know, that way you've got people that are highly motivated and very knowledgeable and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I just think you can't hire buddies. You can't, you know, you get guys that throw a lot of money at them and they're a CEO and they delegate authority, but you got to have somebody that is willing to do the details and check in and make sure things are done right all the time and have knowledge. And most of the time, to be honest with you, most head coaches that get those jobs don't have intimate knowledge of football on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
It's very rare. Bill Belichick does. You know, Alabama, obviously he does. There's just not that many of them that do.
Yeah.
I think McVay does. For a young guy, I think he has an excellent knowledge of both sides of the ball. But there's a great example there when he on his interview, he knew exactly what he wanted, how he was going to get it done, and he did it.
No, that's right.
He was a great hire for him. So
yeah.
So I don't know how they interview. I've been in a couple of those things, and I was just kind of disappointed.
Yeah, and that's what's unique about McVay and Shanahan is that they've grown up in the business. So when they go do interview, you would expect them to interview very well. They've seen it. They've seen it all their lives.
Well, they know exactly what they want and how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not fluff. You know, it's not a pep talk. You know, you go into those deals and you're going to give a pep talk and how you're going to do this. Yeah, they don't want to hear that stuff. Well, some of them do. The Bears obviously do, but they take a recommendation off of somebody because they're enamored. They're fans, you know.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick called and said, "This is the best guy since sliced bread." Well, I'm going to hire him. Bill says he's great. You know, you can't hire him like that. You just can't.
Right. Does he fit your organization? Does he fit your plan? Does he fit? So
in that interview with the head coach, you have to make them demonstrate to you that they have intimate knowledge of how to get this thing done.
Mm-hmm. That's key. Intimate knowledge.
Yeah. They can't just come out with their agent gave them all this stuff to do and talk about, and that's what's going to sell it, you know, which happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Not in intimate knowledge, not PFF or stats knowledge. That's a different type of knowledge. Right.
And the first thing, you know, you talk about how you're going to hire your staff or what you look for and why you do that. You know, you have to ask a lot of whys.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, no more whys from us, man.
All right, Ryan.
You got all the answers. Always fun,
right. I always have the answer. Because somebody will listen.
Yeah.
They may not be right, but I always have answers.
Hey, you still home alone?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I have the dogs. They were just here. I had them on my lap before we got on. They're my buddies.
All right. We got to put them on next week.
We will.
Yeah, let's put them on, man. All right, buddy.
All right, Ronnie.
Talk to you later.
Okay.